Democrats and Republicans see each other's flaws, but they don't see their own flaws. And if they see them, well, maybe they don't see them as flaws, or they just say, yeah, but we still like the party that we choose better. That's not good, but it'd rather be us than them, when really they're both crazy. And the thing that you've heard probably now more than ever is left wing, right wing, doesn't matter. They're both wings on the same bird, and that bird is a turkey vulture. And it's true. No matter who gets in office, and you've heard this before probably too, whoever gets in office, they just plow through with whatever the last guy didn't finish. And it's always bad news for us. It's always about taking away freedoms and civil liberties. And one of the things I've heard over the years about the civil liberties is once they take them away, you don't get them back. So yeah, left wing, right wing, same bird. And that bird is a predatory vulture that wants to kill us and then feed on the carcass. I agree. I remember in the early 2000s, my friend, he's a really sharp guy. When we were kids, he was in the gifted program, so he got to leave class to be in that gifted program. But he was not one of the ones that ever wanted to join the machine, and as far as I know, he never did. But he was very smart, so he always saw what was coming. So I remember in the early 2000s, I was at his place, and he showed me authorship for New World Order website, and I was very disturbed. And he said, oh yeah, he said the Democrats are going to go crazy. He said they're going to want to tear the country apart, and you won't even, like, what they look like now in the early 2000s, that's nothing compared to how they're just going to want to destroy everything. And I didn't know how I knew that, but he was usually right about this stuff. And then seeing that NWO authorship site and who the authors were of that New World Order, it was disturbing. And then he said, look at this and look at this. And he was showing me things that they wanted done. One of the things that always stuck with me was a series of small-scale conflicts at all levels. Now I know what that means deeper than ever before, and it means they want a series of small-scale conflicts at all levels, even inside oneself. Not just to be conflicted inside, but to be conflicted at multiple levels. It's a divide and conquer strategy. It's like pretty much the most important one that's ever been used against us ever. And nothing's changed. Isolate people, make them scared, and then you can push them around and make them do whatever you want. They'll even fight with each other over it, right? Like Avengers Civil War, where the heroes are the good guys are fighting each other, and any of the heroes that don't agree to get their government ID get locked up in jail. So the Avengers Civil War ends up with a bunch of your heroes in jail or running away. You know, like Captain America himself is like one of the guys who's, you know, Tony Stark is the military and industrial complex, and he's like, you gotta have your government ID. This is the plot of the movie. And then Captain America's like, but I represent America and all the good things, and, you know, I can't go along with this. So all those other guys get locked up, and I think Captain America is on the run. Him and the Black Widow are on the run or whatever, and they bust out Ant-Man and all the superheroes that wouldn't go along with. I think the Black Panther didn't go along with the government ID or whatever. But look where we are now. They want you to have a government ID just to use the internet. Just to watch YouTube videos. Oh no, you got to sign in if you want to watch anything good. And you know, they want to track all of our data and everything. And I remember going back to the early 2000s when he showed me this website and told me what was going to happen to the Democratic Party. I was disturbed. So to cheer me up, he took me to a web page, and it had all these photoshopped movie posters where they changed movie posters to make them funny, and we laughed and we cackled. And one that I particularly remember, which should date around when it was that he told me all these things in the early 2000s, was a movie poster for Master and Commander. And they had really, in a well done way, photoshopped a hamster onto that movie poster. And it was just such a simple thing, such a simple twist. It was called Hamster and Commander. And I laughed and I cackled, and I remember it till this day. But also I remember it as, my buddy trying to cheer me up, because he had showed me about the world in a way, and he was always doing that. He was always like, look at this, look at that. And he told me about, RFID technology being worked on in the lower levels of a place where somebody where we both knew worked, and all this crazy stuff. And his cope for those things was booze and weed. And he had tried to get me high a bunch of times, but it just didn't work. It took like several times. And then when I finally felt something from it, I was like, oh, this just feels like, I saw trailing, and I moved my hand. I'm like, this is what this is. And we were just sitting there watching Battlestar Galactica and on Sci-Fi or whatever. And I was like, this is boring. Like, the women are out there, because I'd had a breakup. So, I've been hanging out with him. And I was like, the women aren't here with Battlestar Galactica and weed. We need to go out there and get women and bring them back here for Battlestar Galactica and weed. And so here we are today. And he was the guy that told me, we were watching a Daily Show, and I said, it's funny and everything, because I didn't like any of the Bushes. Like, I thought they were bad presidents. And I was like, oh, we're cooked now. Like, first we got one, and then he didn't get reelected, and then we got the other one. I remember I wanted Tsongas to be president. Do you remember that guy? And he said, forget it, he's not getting in. But he said, I agree, that would have been a good guy if we could get him, but we weren't getting him. So then it was W. Jr. became president, and people thought, like, oh, this is it. This is going to be the apocalypse and everything. And, I'm making this video, we're still here. But both of those guys were bad dudes, right? W. Sr. was all the Kennedy stuff, like he was there. And, and then we found out that W. Jr. was a cheerleader as a teenager. And you're like, that's kind of sad. Now that guy's our president, and there he is wearing, like a 1950s or whatever cheerleader. It's a black and white picture. It's how old he is. And there's a black and white picture of our president, and he's a cheerleader. A dude cheerleader back then. What the hell does that mean? And his mom looks like Aleister Crowley. Barbara looks like Aleister Crowley was her dad. It's uncanny. So Jon Stewart was the host of The Daily Show, and I said, I don't like him. And I didn't like The Daily Show, and I'd always turn it off. And he said, you know who that guy's brother is? And then he told me who Jon Stewart's brother was. And then it kind of bothered me more. I was like, oh, great. Like, the comedy's not even comedy. It's like propaganda. Then I found out that the creator of The Daily Show was a woman, and that she proudly wore this I'm proud of my abortion t-shirts, and that was the creator of The Daily Show, was a woman. And then time went on, and then I remember seeing a Camille Paglia video, and she's got a wife, I think she's married to a black chick, and she was saying, that one of the signs of impending cultural collapse is gender mania. And I think Jordan B. Peterson, or whatever that guy's name is, he was, yeah, it's a sign of cultural collapse. And I was watching all these things. It was the beginning of being called woke. And I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. But now we have this guy who was supposed to, we got President Biff from Back to the Future too. We got this guy, and I knew from the start that he was going to be, there's too much predictive programming. Isn't there like multiple Simpsons episodes that said Trump will be president? But there is predictive programming. Before he became president, that he would become president. And anybody that has predictive programming for them being in office, it's not a good thing. So whether you or not you believe in predictive programming, I knew that that wasn't a good guy. And then he's teaming up with Elon, and I'm like, that's terrible. Do you realize that Elon's grandpa was the founder of the Technocratic Party in Canada? And it's the reason that, probably the reason that Elon is South African. Because the Canadians kicked Elon's grandpa out of Canada for trying to found a technocratic party. Look at what happened to Canada. It's not so great. Very progressive. Terrible. Trudeau. You've been better off having Gary Trudeau as your president than that. Does anybody know who Gary Trudeau is? He had the Doonesbury comic. Is he even alive anymore? So yeah, it's not good. And look at here we are today. We have President Biff from Back to the Future too, and he's terrible. He's just plowing through with whatever the last guy didn't finish, but it's just a different coat of paint on the same horse, and that horse is the Trojan horse, where they've gotten inside and they're invading. If you look at the migrant thing, they've done that strategy in the past too. So bring people into the country and have them tear it apart and tear it up, and a series of small-scale conflicts at all levels, having us fight each other, isolating and dividing us, telling everybody to stay home globally in 2020 and beyond, and then doing divide and conquer by having us break up into different factions online. And I have no idea what Comedy Central looks like. I remember Comedy Central when it was first invented, and it was called HA, the TV Comedy Network. And the jingle for HA, the TV Comedy Network, was sung by Mel Torme when he was still alive. Do you know Mel Torme, the Velvet Frog? He was a scat singer. You know what scat is, right? It's shit. So Mel Torme, Dream a Little Dream of Me, doobie 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 doo, that's scat singing, which means shit. So Mel Torme did the jingle for the channel Comedy Central when it was called Ha, and then they changed the name to Comedy Central, and Penn Jillette, atheist Penn Jillette, became the spokesman for the channel. And I remember one of the bumpers was, the only thing to survive an apocalypse will be cockroaches and Comedy Central, something like that. And that guy is one of the most avid collectors of satanic works. He buys rare books that cost thousands of dollars and bids on them at auctions and stuff. That's Penn Jillette, the atheist, the famous atheist who proudly claimed that he convinced his mother that there was no God when she was on her deathbed, and he was proud of it. Pride, deadliest of the 7 sins. They have a parade for that. They have pride parades. And what is a pride parade about? It's about who you sleep with, who you have sexual relations with. We have sexual relations in a way that's in defiance of God by all the major religions. All the major religions agree that it's not, men shouldn't lay with women and women shouldn't lay with women, and it's like some kind of mental illness. And, in the Old Testament, which probably translates over to the Quran and the Torah, said that people that laid with animals, the person in the animal shall be put to death. That's pretty severe. That's God giving Moses the law and laying down the law. Anybody who lays with animals is out of here into the afterlife, whatever that looks like. Hey, get it? You're going to Sheol. And now we have pride parades. I know some of the fervor for that, for the flames, for being a flamer, has died down. But it is a pride predicated upon sexual preference. And that sexual preference, once again, is in defiance of God. And what do they use? An inverted rainbow spectrum. The rainbow was a gift to Noah from God. The pride rainbow is an inversion of the colors. You know what I mean? The order of the colors in the rainbow by God. And then they added some of their own colors into their gray area, I guess you could say. So it's a literal inversion, and pride is the deadliest of the 7 sins. So there's a lot wrapped up in that, symbolically. And everybody thinks of Joe Rogan as the comedy. Yeah, I'm talking about Joe Rogan. Everybody thinks about Joe Rogan as the comedy guy. Comedy Central became not funny. It was always propaganda. First you had Craig Kilborn, who was a sportscaster, and he was the first host of The Daily Show, and he just said whatever they told him. But then you get Jon Stewart in there, and I think his brother's like a lobbyist or something. I forget what his brother did, but it was something for the Democratic Party or something governmental, and I can't remember anymore, but it wasn't good. And I remember being disturbed when I heard it, and I'm like, well, it makes sense. So you got Jon Stewart in there in Daily Show, and people liked him. And it's propaganda. And I remember hearing this years ago. Do you know that a lot of people get their news from the Daily Show? Like, that's where they go for the news, which is liberal media. It's specifically Democratic, and it was slanted. So Ted Turner was considered a conservative. He sold everything years ago. So whoever owns Turner Broadcasting now, it doesn't matter, because if you look at the top of the Turner Broadcasting building, it has a giant gold owl on it. Go look at the Turner building. It's got a giant gold owl on it. It doesn't even look like it belongs. It looks very tacky, to be honest with you. So that's Ted Turner. Do what you will with that. But it's not nothing. It's definitely something. And it's weird. So, now, well, also I would say Disney's a monopoly. I'm just going to throw that in there. When are they going to break Disney apart? I mean, it's a monopoly. Disney streaming didn't work, so they bought Hulu. Okay, Disney has look at everything that they own. They own Star Wars, they own the Marvel movies, they own The Simpsons, they own everything that Fox owns, they own Aliens. That's a monopoly. They own too many things. And they bought Hulu because Disney streaming wasn't working, because they have so much money they can afford to lose money, because Larry Fink said, just keep giving them, it doesn't matter, we just got to keep pushing, just keep pushing with what we tell you to. And they're named BlackRock, Cobble Stone International, whatever, transnational. So it's not good. If you want to, I'm not going to do a video on the black rock symbolism, what that means, the black, our mirror is a black sky stone. It's, there's a TV show called Black Mirror. Is that like a BBC show or a Netflix show or whatever? And the black mirror is the sky stone. It's what sorcerers and magicians use to do that which in Deuteronomy God said not to do, where he said no magic, no witchcraft, no sorcery, no scrying, whatever. There's a lot of things we're not supposed to do. So back to comedy and Joe Rogan. So I criticize, Craig Kilborn is replaced with Jon Stewart, and then Jon Stewart is replaced with Stephen Colbert. And we know Stephen Colbert got canceled because he was doing the stabby dance. Remember that? And all the stuff he did. People hate him now. They canceled The Late Show, which was a tradition since, I guess, Johnny Carson or Steve Allen or whoever started the Tonight Show or The Late Show. So Stephen Colbert had that. And they canceled the whole show. Like, get him out of here. Nobody even cares about that shit anymore. People watch Oompa TV or whatever they watch. It's better for you. It's probably better to watch his late night TV show or whatever than it is to watch regular TV. The boomers are dying, so who cares about that? Everything's just going to go online, and if you want to watch TV online, you got to have your government ID, as predicted by the Avengers Civil War. You know what Civil War is? It's where people they fight against each other that are on the same team, based sort of, even though not really. But anyway, to get on with it. So then they replaced Stephen Colbert with Trevor Noah, and Trevor Noah's not even a comedian, and he was never funny, and he's very vain and arrogant, and he was the right mix. He was like, let's put whatever he is, chocolate and vanilla together, and that's very progressive or whatever. Is he gay? And it all sucks. And so they had to bring Jon Stewart back to The Daily Show because it's crumbling, and probably because they offered him so much money. but people used to watch the Daily Show. They broadcasted it all throughout the day. It was like how the regular legacy media TV news was on at like 3, 6, and 10. But they'd have it on, and they'd have old episodes, marathons, and they'd put it on like 5 times a day. The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. And people would watch it and laugh on it. It was a place for comedy writers that had a liberal bent would go, and they would write for them, and people would laugh at it. I mean, I laughed at things on the Daily Show, but I also at some point I was like, I don't like this, and I didn't know why. It just bothered me. And then when I found out about Jon Stewart and his brother, I was like, no, I definitely don't want to watch it. And when I heard their little jingle for the Daily Show, I'd always I avoided it. I was like, no, I'll come back later when the commercial's over. Oh, the Daily Show's on now. I'll check in Comedy Central later. And fake, talk about fake news. It was the comedy news. So now a lot of people get their news from Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan has the tech guys, the tech gurus, and scientists and all these guys on. And my complaint about Joe Rogan for years was he's your new Timothy Leary. He's telling all these people that they haven't lived unless they get into psychedelics. And I remember when he started telling them that, it was whenever Joe Rogan went on the Jim Breuer show, Jim Breuer from Saturday Night Live, they kind of booted him from Saturday Night Live because he wasn't part of their establishment or whatever. So he just became like a radio DJ guy because he had to have a gig. And Joe Rogan, as a comedian, went on the Jim Breuer show, and he told this famous story. It became a famous meme clip online where Joe Rogan tells a story of how his experiences with DMT and psychedelics, and how you haven't lived unless you've had a psychedelic experience, and it will expand your mind. And it's just a new coat of paint on the old horse. In the 1960s, Luciferian Timothy Leary, who looked right into the camera on like Dick Cavett show or something, and he said everything that he does for Lucifer, right out of his own mouth. So Timothy Leary was the counterculture guy, and the 1960s counterculture was about destroying families, because the culture in America was families. So being part of the counterculture revolution of the late 1960s until they burnt out in the early 70s was not just sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which was a term coined by Aleister Crowley, but it was about destruction of the family unit, and all the peace, love, and drugs and orgies and love-ins and all that stuff ruined families. Communes from the 1960s into the 70s, when they were destroyed, ruined families. So Joe Rogan is a new Timothy Leary. And Joe Rogan told people to take drugs, and he became a big hit. I remember Joe Rogan on MySpace when there was a homosexual gangster rapper, and he's like, look at this guy's funny songs, and on MySpace, I don't know if it was on MySpace or Joe Rogan's website, before he even started podcasting, he had a website, and on his website it had a countdown till 2012 when the aliens were going to come, and it had the green alien face, and it was a countdown. And at this time, a lot of people, which is probably like 2008 or between 2006 and 2008 probably, and a lot of people had these counters on their websites of like when Harry Potter kids turned 18, or when the Olsen twins. It was like disgusting stuff that you or I wouldn't like, and it wasn't even funny. It was just like degenerate stuff, like when children became legal that were famous. But Joe Rogan had the alien counter, the Mayan calendar 2012, the aliens are come back to save us. And now Joe has the comedy mothership, and it's got aliens. And if you've watched YouTube videos in the last 3 years, we all know that aliens are demons. Whether you believe that or not, that's the popular opinion. So Joe Rogan became the comedy guy, but he also became the news guy. He usurped the Daily Show, so much so that they paid Jon Stewart a lot of money to come back and do that stuff again. And probably nobody cares. But Joe Rogan, everybody watches him, And you can see how now, as of me recording this video, August 2025, people are hating Joe Rogan, and they're saying the Texas thing, comedy sucks, it's not funny, podcasts are funnier than comedy. And it's true. People hanging out riffing feels more like a hangout than somebody standing on stage telling rehearsed bits to you. TV shows, sitcoms had always had canned laugh tracks, but we've transcended the canned laugh track, the laugh track of a live studio audience, and we've gone into a different phase where the laugh track doesn't matter anymore. And shows like The Office took that away, because in The Office it's like a documentary that never ends, and they're talking to the camera, but there's no need for a laugh track. They're engaging you this way. In the old days of legacy media television, they would say at the beginning of the show, or at the end of the show, this show was recorded in front of a live studio audience. So whenever the audience laughed, and that's what the applause sign was for, they had a sign, and when it would light up, it would say applause, and then they would tell the people to laugh and clap so that you at home watching would know what you were supposed to think was funny. They were coaching you on what you were supposed to laugh at, which has political intents. I mean, from its inception, they called it television programming, because you were watching a program, and that program was programming you how to think. And that was dictated by the advertisers. You may remember this from the old days of television, which hasn't changed today. If there's something that the advertisers don't like, that's a joke in a sitcom or any kind of TV show, they're like, well, that actually, we're paying for this show, and that thing you said or did in the show goes against the product we're trying to sell. So you can't use that joke because we're paying for you to put your show on, on the TV or on Netflix or on Hulu or whatever. So that's right from its first. In the old days of television, when it was new, Jackie Gleason would stop doing the honeymooners and do a commercial for telling you the health benefits of cigarettes or whatever. So television had a thing called soap operas, because they would try to sell you soap, because soap operas were ongoing daytime television aimed at moms, because it was possible to be a stay-at-home mom. So what are they doing? Laundry. So they would call them soap operas because the companies that made the laundry detergent would pay for advertising time in the romantic play, which they called them soap operas, because they were selling soap, just to get on with it. So here we are today, how sophisticated our programming has become, as predicted by Edward Bernays. When Edward Bernays saw television, he's like, that's how we get them. This radio is something, but the radio is nothing compared to how we can program people how to think through television. Edward Bernays wrote the dreadful book called Propaganda. And so here we are today, where Joe Rogan is your Timothy Leary drug pusher guy telling you to take drugs. And my complaint against Joe Rogan was, you better apologize, Joe, for telling everybody to take drugs, because by now he knows that people can't handle their high, because he created a comedy community in Austin, Texas. And if you've seen videos making fun of Joe and the Comedy Mothership, that's a bunch of junkies hanging around in alleys in Austin, Texas, just hoping to get on 1 minute of Kill Tony. And Tony Hinchcliffe was never funny. And again, isn't Tony Hinchcliffe's dad in like one of those 3-letter organizations? It's FBI or CIA, it's one of them, right? So everybody makes jokes about Joe Rogan's handler, who tells him and you how to think, and that's his friend. And now Joe Rogan is comedy, and comedy is part of the establishment. There's no longer any difference between Joe Rogan and The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. It's got a conservative bent, and they talk about speaking out against the liberals and wokeness, but instead what Joe Rogan is saying, well, it's the inevitability of Palantir, and Peter Thiel's not so bad, and like oh, guess what? The Epstein files are Trump says, just forget about them. It'll break down the way that the world works if we talk. He's still talking about that. And then Joe Rogan goes away. He's like, I'm going to go on a boat trip in the middle of the ocean so people can't bother me. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to wait for it to die down, and then I'll come back. And when Joe Rogan comes back from vacation, he has a woman that is like a figurehead for some kind of bullshit. She's not very smart, and she's talking about aliens, how there's interdimensional beings, demons. Interdimensional beings are giving us advancements in technology we can't even wrap our heads around. But really what those advancements in technology are not what Elon Musk or any of these other tech guys say they are. It's basically about making the Matrix movies from 1999, where you sit in a coon pod, which is life pod, death pod, and you're online all the time, and you have drugs pumped into you. And Joe Rogan knows from the comedy mothership and the alleys around that comedy mothership that people can't handle their high. And they were never intended to handle their high. It's ruining their lives. It's ruining everybody's lives. Gas station vapes are ruining your life, and you don't even know it because it's corrupting people around you. I've had vapes. I've had the THCA, the Delta 8 vapes, and whatever else they have, all these hideous combinations of these things. And you get high. 5 puffs on an ELF THC 5 pen or whatever the hell it is. A little cartridge thing. You're gonna get baked, you're gonna get high, and it feels great. I mean, that's why people take the drugs. They work, but you gotta keep taking them. And maybe you know the irritability that I know of when you're like, oh, like I gotta get high, I gotta keep hitting it again because I'm not high, I'm crabby. Oh, I better go buy another vape, I'm out. But I'll tell you what, those vape things, this is just an aside, those THC vape things that get you high, even when they're empty, you can keep getting high on them, and you can look at it and there's nothing in it, and you keep hitting it and you'll get high. You're probably getting high off of a plastic or something, but it's vapor. You're getting high on the vapors. This is pharmakeia. It's drugs for the mind. The CEO of Netflix invested in smell-o-vision. And they said, why, you have so much money, why would you invest money in smell-o-vision for Netflix? And he said, well, basically it's Netflix and pills, and you're gonna have like a full sensory experience where you even smell stuff. You don't really have to like scratch a card and smell it when you're watching Netflix. You will just have chemicals released in your brain where you will smell the smells of what you're watching. Oh, I'm watching a comedy on Netflix and it smells like a raunchy fart, or it smells like sex, or it smells like cotton candy, or whatever, or it smells like copper of blood in the air because it's a horror movie. That's the future that really we're lining up with. It's like we're serving, all the technologies we have are prostheses of things that we do naturally, and what we're doing, what technology is really, where we're headed, is blurring the boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal. And comedy's not comedy anymore. That's why everybody says stand-up's not funny, and there's more people watching the videos on how Joe Rogan and his friends suck, and the views that Joe Rogan and his friends that suck are getting are from people who are monetizing the comment, making fun of how unfunny Joe and his friends are, and how humiliating it is to be on Kill Tony and watch somebody do a terrible 1 minute, and then Tony asks them about their life, and then you find out how messed up they are on drugs, and they tell some kind of horrible sob story, which is true, and they're like, yep, who cares, next! And he's a deplorable queer Tony Hinchcliffe. What an awful man. And he's not funny. He was never funny. A third, fourth-rate David Spade. David Spade was the guy that did the thing that Tony Hinchcliffe did. But David Spade was actually kind of funny because he was the male Joan Rivers, basically. So Joan Rivers was funny. She just insulted people, and look at her face. She, plastic surgery addict. But they're not funny, Joe Rogan and his friends, to stay on point. So everybody wants to make fun of Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer and Adam Schultz. What's that guy? Andrew Schultz. And any of those guys, they call them the Joe Rogan orbiters. And it's hate watch. And it's not comedy. The the comedy podcast making fun of Joe Rogan and talking about, oh, I saw Legion of Skanks and they're making fun of Joe Rogan. Do you believe it? Yeah, like, that's the news. Like, people go to Joe Rogan for the news and the weather, and they get the version of the news and the weather from Joe Rogan that the establishment wants you to have. Like, give up, stand down, and we're gonna plow through with this shit, and you're gonna take it, and it's not so bad. And, you know, whatever Joe Rogan's doing, whatever they tell him to do. And you know what? Joe Rogan briefly had one season on the Sci-Fi Channel of Joe Rogan Explains Everything. And on that show, they did an episode on aliens. And I'm not putting clips in this video, but maybe I'll find that clip and stick it into another video. But Joe Rogan said he would lie to his grandmother and sell his grandma out to know the truth about the aliens, if they would just tell him the truth about the aliens. And look at him now. He sold out. He made a deal with Spotify. He has a handler. Look at the way he changed he is the establishment now. And he's also trying to say that he is comedy now, and we got to fight the wokeness. And, you know, left wing, right wing, both wings on the same bird, and that bird is the turkey vulture, and it's, you know, it's a turkey and a vulture, so it's preying upon us and feeding off of our corpses after it kills us. And they're not funny. Those guys aren't funny. I laugh at videos I find on YouTube, but it doesn't have anything to do with Joe Rogan or any of the people they call the Joe Rogan orbiters. None of those guys are funny. Shane Gillis isn't funny. Do you remember when Joe Rogan had Kid Rock on his show, and they opened the show by saying, we don't have any problem with Bud Light anymore. We met the CEO and we think he's a great guy. They opened the show cracking open a Bud because the CEO of Bud Light and Microsoft guy money pumped into Budweiser, the feminizing Budweiser. They had Dylan Mulvaney on a can of a man making a caricature of a woman, a mockery of a woman. Hi, I'm Dylan Mulvaney. And then they put him on the can, and then Kid Light is shooting Bud Light with a shotgun or whatever it is. I'm like, cool, he's a base dude. And then they give him they give him money, they give Joe money, they give Shane Gillis money, and they're all spokesmen for Bud now. That's a sellout by definition. The thing that Joe Rogan said that he didn't want to be. Joe Rogan sold out. And if he, I mean, like, I don't like him anyway, but I remember in the early days watching Joe Rogan when it was him with a shitty webcam on a couch with Ari Shaffir and Red Band, and they were talking about Bigfoots and aliens and all that stuff, and that's when I liked it. You know, that's when I liked him. And I just watched him morph into this telling everybody to take drugs, and I'm like, Joe, not everybody's going to be able to take drugs like that. It's going to mess up people's lives. That's what happened to the people in the 70s from the 60s. They burnt out and they had to come down from drugs. Now they have microdoses of ketamine, and you can get high from your gas station CBD. I remember somebody telling me when the CBD, I remember driving across the country because that was work, and I saw these gas station banners at the road stops, you know, where you get off the interstate and everything. And it would say, we got CBD all over the place. It sounded like Duncan Trussell for a minute. We got CBD, it's the lavender hour. Remember that? I wanted to make a crucifixion simulator. Asshole. So I remember that we got CBD banners, and then I asked somebody, it was I guess it would be a millennial or a Zoomer, and I knew that he got high all the time, and I said, do you ever have the gas station CBD gummy stuff? And he said, oh yeah, they work, but you got to take like the whole pack. And I think at the time you could get like a pack of them, which was like 8 to 12 CBD gummies, and it was like $40 or something. I don't know what that shit is now. It's probably cheaper and more candy. They want you to be high. That was probably back in a time when people would spend like $400 a month for their weed budget or whatever, from their Mick job or whatever. But he said, oh yeah, he said, me and my girlfriend have this CBD gummies, and then we just, you just get sleepy and you sit on a couch and it's cool. Like, like it's just a cheap, easy way to get high. He said, yeah, they work. Just kind of makes you sleepy and you mellow out, and then you just sit around and watch TV and shit. And, look at us now. And look at what people did when they were traumatized. The whole world was scared, but if you get high, it's not so bad. You're like, yeah, I know it's terrible, and so we're all locked up and everything globally, but it's okay. You just keep getting high. All this stuff's out there now, and Joe Rogan helped inculturate the idea that you need to take drugs to expand your mind, to understand the world. When really what it is you need to find God, and He doesn't want you to do drugs. People who really want to find God and seek Him will find out that they're not drinking, they're not smoking, not even cigarettes, and they're not drinking, smoking, or taking weed, and they get off their prescription meds because they really want that connection with God. And that connection with God is taken away if you're high all the time, whether it's prescription drugs or dispensary medical weed, marijuana card, or gas station vapes. They all work. I've had all these things. They all get you work. And if you want booze, you can have booze, and you can mix them all together and make a horrible chemical cocktail. You can't sleep, you can take a drug that makes you have ambient dreams, and they're really crazy. You ever hear people tell you about ambient dreams? There's multiple stand-up comedians that talk about ambient dreams in their stand-up bits, because if you take Ambien, you're going to have crazy dreams. You're probably making evil covenants with dark satanic forces, and then you have to wake up and break the covenants. That's spiritual warfare. These buggers attack you even in your sleep, and if you take drugs, it's even more so. I used to do this. I used to smoke some weed before I went to bed so I wouldn't have dreams. You still have dreams, just don't remember them. So who knows what you're agreeing to when you're sleeping and you can't remember. You wake up with an oyster on your thigh. Oh look, a cold doubloon on my thigh. I don't remember what I dreamed about. Hope she was hot. You're having sex with demons, bro. So, and I hate when people say bro. That's why I said it. It's an obnoxious thing. But yeah, that's, comedy is not funny. And part of why it's not funny is because it's just propaganda and programming, even when it's coming from Joe Rogan. He'll say it's about the wokeness, but whether you're woke or not woke, it's propaganda. It should be a sobering thing, and you should want to be sober. I mean, I still do laugh at stuff. It's YouTubers' videos that say funny things, but I'll tell you what, it's not comedians. And some of it's just mean and actually racist and prejudiced, and not just from Joe Rogan, but from some of the other people that call themselves comedians. It's degenerate, it's pornographic, all that Legion of Skanks. Those guys aren't Joe Rogan buddies or whatever, but they suck too. That's not any good. Those guys aren't, you think that's funny? Those guys aren't funny. They're just scumbags. It's just like, here's comedy for the insane clown posse, holdovers from Howard's, you grew up listening to your grandpa listen to Howard Stern or whatever, or Opie and Anthony and all that racist stuff. Who's funny? YouTubers, but not comedians. And listening to comedians talk to each other and just riff is more appealing to people because it actually feels in this isolated and alone phase of society, or whatever they're heading us into, which is the Matrix. That's where our technology is leading us. They just want us to stay home and be high and stay online, and that's blurring the boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal, so that which is called the demonic can enter into our lives, and instead of being given what would be given to us by God, we're being given the illusion. That which is evil can't create anything. God created everything. So that which is evil can only mock and imitate the things that they know about as fallen angels that God has done, and those influenced by fallen angels. So they can only imitate what God has done. So it's always like a counterfeit. It's always like a lesser version. It's always like a copy of a copy. And if it's intense or evil, then it's wholly destructive. You got to pick a side. Is it good or evil? So what's being done against us is evil, to lull us into a sleep, to lull us into complacency, to go along with whatever it is they want to do to shape our lives. And if we don't want to go along with it, be afraid and be scared, and that'll get you to go along with it in one way or the other. But eternity is so much longer period of time than this. So we're all going to die one way or the other, even if they promise that we'll live forever on a thumb drive, which is bullshit. Oh, the singularity's coming. The Christine Chan, whichever you prefer. The cartoonic convergence is coming, where all our characters will come alive. Who knew that Chris Chan's prophecy was kind of a real thing? Through drugs and internet, they're trying to blur the boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal, so that you can actually have the illusion of being in love with cartoon characters, like what Chris Chan predicted. He's just a little premature. That's coming for us, but not in a way that anybody would want. We have to wait, to die and be raised again for what God has for us, but they're trying to give us everything now in a counterfeit of what God has for us. And so you can have that. And it's a ruiner, and that's the whole point. It's to say, these demons, these fallen beings, these sons of God that failed him and got cast down to earth, they're saying, look at what we convinced them to do. So right now, what we're experiencing as of me recording this video is people are coming back to Jesus to know that he is God. And it's a setup for a letdown. Did you ever see the Illuminati card game? I think that's what it's called. The Illuminati card game. And there's a card where it shows spaceships, flying saucers crashing into churches, and and the card says they'll never see it coming. And that's what they're going to do. They're trying to use various technologies we have: weather manipulation, climate manipulation, probably some form of blue beam technology, and probably technology they already have that they haven't unveiled to us, as well as all the AI generated stuff that's very convincing. And they'll use all this stuff together in a pastiche to make us worship interdimensional beings. And the interdimensional beings are demons, because they are interdimensional. Why do you think there's so many movies about multiverses? Because they want us to accept interdimensionality. They want us to under the guise of multiverses, that there are beings from another dimension, and they're going to make our lives better because we've put ourselves in a horrible place. And you can believe in the demons of all the other religions, just so long as it's not Jesus. Why? Because Jesus is God. So they want us to believe in all these other horrible, like you can believe in the pantheon of Hindu demons and whatever they believe in Thailand or Bali, or that in communist China they're not supposed to believe or can't believe in God. So they want to build people up to believe in God so that they can let them down, and so that they'll turn away. And this will lead us to the battle of Gog-Magog, where people like the sands of the sea will surround the camp of the saints. This is tricking people. It says many of his elect will fall away. The great deception is building people up towards Christ, and then pulling the rug out from underneath everybody so that they give up and don't believe in him anymore. We're the people of Revelation 20. Jesus has already had his millennial reign. If you read the Bible and actually read and pay attention to what it says, Jesus says, getting up on the cross, he gets up on the cross, he's raised again in 3 days, and then he stays with them for 40 days, and he says, okay, get ready because I'm coming back. And then he gives everybody time to repair and turn to him. And he comes back and he destroys the earth is destroyed. And then he has this 1,000-year millennial reign, and we are the people of Revelation 20, where Satan has been released from his chains for a short season to deceive the nations. And what this video about is the great deception. And we're being deceived. And comedy was our pressure relief valve for that. And it's been co-opted. And that's why people don't think that Joe Rogan and his friends are funny, because they're not funny. They're propagandists, just like the liberals were when they weren't funny. They're not funny anymore. Mark Maron pointed it out. So people are doing people that don't like Mark Maron, who's the Air America guy, who's the WTF guy, who brought comedy and podcasting together, who did an interview with Obama. He was the first comedian to interview a president. People aren't talking about that. They're talking about Joe Rogan interviewing Trump. Mark Maron did it first when he interviewed Obama, and probably had Biden on too or something. And, you know, so now you have Mark Maron, as me recording this, people are clipping him and saying, look at how he's really accurately trashing Joe Rogan and his friends. Yeah, but he's a crazy liberal. So left wing, right wing, same bird. So people are so sick of Joe Rogan that they're like, look at Mark Maron. But Mark Maron's full of bullshit too, and he doesn't even have any propaganda or anybody behind him. He's just kind of on his own. He just believes those things. And, you know, comedy, stand-up comedy has been ruined because people are lonely and isolated, and they just want to hang out. And a comedy podcast where comedians get together and riff on the fly is funnier than stand-up comedy. And stand-up comedy probably is funny, but they've turned comedy into a thing where, what kind of comedian are you, left wing or right wing? What if you're neither? I'm sure there are comedians that are funny that lean left or lean right. They're people, they're just people, and they're probably funny and they will make you laugh. You have to decide that for yourself. But I can't find anybody around that I like or that I want to laugh at. I watched the Shane Gillis comedy special and I don't laugh at it, but I'm biased against the guy because, one, I didn't think he was funny just because he said ching chong Chinese. And then when I saw his special from Texas or whatever, I was like, it's not funny. He's not really that great. And then I thought, well, who is funny? And I looked, and I just was unimpressed. But the comedy podcasts are funny, but I burnt out on comedy podcasts years ago, and I said, I've heard so much riffing, and we get it. Comedians are degenerate and they have degenerate lives. I don't need to hear about this anymore. So I stopped listening to them. And, you know, now it's propaganda to get us to stay home and be scared and be alone and eat the bugs, and just, you know, you can hate it or like it, but just go along with it either way. And I guess in summation, what I want to say is, you know, don't give up on Jesus, because Jesus is God. And I want to make this video now so that you can keep this video in your mind, like my friend did in the early 2000s when he said, watch the Democrats go crazy. Here's the authorship for a New World Order. And I know how you need to laugh because this is depressing to hear all this stuff. So I thank God for giving me this video to you, because I think this is maybe the best video I ever made. But I want to remind you, so that later, as the world gets crazier, that you don't give up on praying to Jesus and asking him for help. He said that he had to go up into the clouds so that the Holy Spirit could come down here and work through us. You're a holy temple of God. You're his holy temple. And there's a throne inside that holy temple for the king to reside. You want that because you're going to need it. And you're probably still going to need a sense of humor about this. And keep eternity in mind. When people have turned to Jesus and are saying Christ is king, and then whatever they do next, some kind of horrible terror attack, you know, whoever's the wealthy elite whose fortunes shape the fates of nations, whatever horrible stuff they do, you know, working together with the forces of darkness and demons to have us live one global government. Remember that Burning Man? They burn a man and they say, we are one global village. That's globalization. Burning man in the desert isn't freedom. That's burning the man. That's our destruction. We're burning the effigy of man. We're destroying ourselves. That's what Burning Man shit is. And what do you do there? Take drugs, get high, listen to music, go to the orgy tent, and we'll all take care of each other. That's just communism, Marxism, socialism with a new age Terence McKenna pharmakeia bent to it. And that's all the Joe Rogan shit. Even though Joe Rogan probably would never go to Burning Man or whatever. And if he did, so what? Who cares? But the point is, don't lose sight of the things I've said in this video as the world goes on, because they want to build us up and they're saying, go find Jesus. And then they want to pull the rug out and say, see, that's not him. And then just have like one world religion where you can just throw Jesus into the mix maybe, but he's not our king and our God, which he most surely is. And that's the kind of thing that's going to get people to be like the grains of sand in the sea, to team up around the camp of the saints. And people like grains of the sand in the sea. It just means a lot of people. So get people disassociated and high all the time. And think about how, if you've ever taken drugs, how grumpy you get when you run out of weed and you're like, I need to get more weed, I'm getting irritable. Well, why wouldn't it be the same thing when people are given their drugs to be high all the time and then it's threatened to be taken away, and they take away your internet and they take away your drugs? You're going to get grumpy and irritable, and they say, okay, well, if you want them back, you got to do this, you got to submit. And the cost will be your soul. There's probably more than one way to sell your soul, even if you never say the words, I'm selling my soul. Didn't you remember the South Park episode where people sold their soul to the devil by signing the agreement for Twitter? That was episode before Elon bought it. And then Elon bought Twitter and changed the name to X. Do you know what X is? X is the crossroads where Robert Johnson made his devil's deal. The crossroads is the meeting place between corporeal and incorporeal. That's where you kind of make your devil's deal. So I never signed up for Twitter because of South Park. And we both know that those guys are bozos. South Park guys. And, left-wing, right-wing, libertarian, what difference does it make? The libertarians are never going to be president. If we ever get a libertarian president, if there are any presidents again, because remember that Trump said he would be the last one, whether that's true or not. When the Martians are coming, forget about those guys. Aliens or demons, let's stick to that and remember that Jesus is God, and that it'd be better that we lay down our lives and put our heads in the chopping block than ever give up on our God. Princesses laid their head on the chopping block when their fathers said, it was a Russian princess, I think there was more than one princess that was willing to be decapitated rather than to deny God. We've seen so many decapitations in movies. In the past, like to have your head cut off was supposed to be a humiliating death. Yet on All Hallows Eve, it was called All Hallows Eve because they would kill saints, and then the saints would pick up their heads and carry their heads around and preach the word just to let them know who God really is. And that's a jack-o'-lantern. And look at how popular Halloween has become in our deteriorating society. They have whole outlet stores, the Halloween spirit, the spirit of Halloween, which is the spirit of Antichrist. The spirit of Halloween pops up before October. It's probably going to be opened in September, so you can go there and you get all your supplies for your plastic abattoir and decorate your yard with demons. They have these like 8 foot, 9 foot tall, maybe even higher, maybe 10 foot skeletons. Have you seen these? Those are Nephilim skeletons. The Nephilim are the demons. They're the progeny of fallen angels and the first witches. Those are the Nephilim, women that had sex with angels, and their progeny were the giants. So now, in reverence to the giants, and I'm not the only one to say this to me, I went out with my boomer buddy, and he said, look at this, there's another one. He said, these people put up these Halloween skeletons, these giant skeletons like 8-10 feet tall, and they leave them up all year. It's August. I just took my boomer friend to the hardware store, and we saw 2 of them. We saw 2 in our rural area, we saw 2 giant, like 8 to 10 foot tall skeletons still in people's yards. They just leave them up. They're just staying up. It's not, like they didn't put them up in anticipation that, it's August now. Oh, October's coming soon. Let's put up the skeletons. They're just leaving them up. And, we're told in the last days it will be like the days of Noah. And I think how it will be like in the days of Noah, it means that there'll be demons everywhere. And the demons will probably inhabit the AI. And, like when you prompt AI, you're prompting, the demons are the go-getters. They're called daemons. D-A-E-M-O-N-S. Daemons. The demons are the little bots or whatever they really are, that go out and steal everybody else's artwork information and pictures and videos and stuff, and then they collate it. The demons go out and collate that stuff and put the AI artwork, the AI generated imagery together that they're using for movies and TV to program us, for us to watch, so that we can make our sexual fantasies of celebrities as we come to the end of the age of celebrities. They were using Grok. Do you ever hear the Grok AI glue face trend? Guys were taking pictures of local girls or videos and prompting Grok AI, which is Annie AI, which is the Grok AI. It's Annie. It's a girl that represents, like, hey, I'm an anime babe, and I'm Annie, and what do you want me to get for you? And they say, take this picture of this girl that I know, or that's in your life or whatever, that would never have anything to do with you, and put glue all over her face, make her face dripping with glue, have her tongue sticking out, and have her looking upward, giving puppy dog eyes. They're using Grok AI to make a money shot of girls in their neighborhood or that they go to school with or whatever, and it's gross. So then they had to change Grok so that it won't accept that prompt. They'll just make it something else. Make her face beating with sweat, milky sweat or whatever, and have her mouth open, have her painting like a capybara or whatever, and they'll just keep doing it. This is summoning demons, because when you prompt AI, you're literally having the demons, they're called daemons, to get it. So whether they're really demons or not, it doesn't matter. You're doing that gesture. You're doing the ritual. Okay? So all this threat of robots and what robots will be able to do and all that stuff, none of it really matters. They just want everybody to be online all the time, gooning and cooming and edging and, straight down into hell. And they want us to turn away from God. And we got to avoid all these things and, keep our eyes focused on the Lord. So, a lot of people that have their near-death experiences or that dreams, old men will have dreams and visions, and young men will prophesy, they say. It's in the book of Revelations. It's happening. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, we don't know when specifically, but he's coming back soon. And what does it say about from Revelation 20 and beyond? That he'll rain fire down from the sky. Again. So know where your bread is buttered, who butters the bread, and who made the bread, and who made the cows that make the butter. That's God. And Jesus is God. And don't forget that. And, I could keep going expounding on how all this stuff is related, but it is. If you want to get a more accurate version of the future they intend for us, it's like The Congress. The Congress is a movie with Robin Wright, and I don't know why they ever spent money to make it. It looks really good. It's got a lot of animation, like anime. Well, it's got like Cuphead style animation in it, and it's well done. And it's a well-made, well-put-together, well-directed feature by a director you never heard of before. At least I never did. And it was made 2016. And in the Congress, Robin Wright, who played Jenny in Forrest Gump, and who is the Princess Bride from the old Princess Bride movie. Remember that? So Robin Wright plays herself, and she's getting herself scanned so that they can use her AI version as an actress. So she's retiring from acting, and they just have her scans, so that they can use her in movies, and she'll get the paycheck for it every time they use her in a movie. And she has this son that's on the spectrum, so she agrees to go into the Congress because she's retired now, which means she takes a drink and goes into Roger Rabbit Toontown. Remember the Roger Rabbit movie where Bob Hoskins is driving his car, and then he drives beyond the checkpoint, and after he goes through the checkpoint, he's in Toontown. And all that Toontown is, and all that the Congress is, and Robin Wright starring in the Congress, is Netflix and pills. You get high and you're online all the time, and if you ever wake up out of your high, like happens in the end of the movie The Congress, what you find out is it's a bunch of people wandering around a shanty town in rags, and they think that they're online. Their bodies are physically moving around, but where they really live is in filth, and they have the AI goggles on all the time, and the way that they take the AI goggles is like through a chip in a drink, which is Netflix and pills. And Elon Musk is always warning us about the dangers of AI, yet if you look at the diagrams of his Neuralink, he wants to cut a circle in your skull and put a chip in there. So he's warning us that AI will take over the world, but he wants to put a chip in our brain that will give AI access to our brains. And a lot of people are talking about how AI is demons. Demons will inhabit the AI, but who knows how far we'll get before God himself returns. So keep that in mind. Is anybody going to get raptured? I don't know. I don't know that that's in the Bible. But when it says that one man will be two men will be in the field, one man will be left, and one man will be taken, the one that's taken means that they'll be dead. And then it says there'll be food for the birds. That's what's in the book of Revelations. 2 women will be like grinding grain. One will be left, one will be taken. What it means, being taken means is that you'll be dead, and then you'll be food for the birds. That's what that means. Does that sound like a rapture to you? So are the guillotines coming? Look, people have been talking about the guillotine stuff already. There's some kind of thing called the Noah covenants or whatever, but it's like 10 commandments based on teachings of the tiny hat people. And it's like saying, well, they're going to cut our heads off. So is that really going to happen? Who knows when God will return? They're trying to set up the idea of something that already happened to trick us. It's part of the deception. So Jesus was already here. He had his millennial reign. But what they're trying to trick people into thinking now is setting up this fake rapture and Book of Revelation stuff that already happened, because a lot of people don't think that it happened. And the proof that it's okay, the proof that they're trying to trick us into stuff that already happened is when people talk about the apocalypse happening that already happened, like when Jesus settled the earth the first time before his millennial reign. They're trying to set it up. Like if you make videos about that shit, you can, just as long as you're getting it wrong. If you're talking about what's really true and you're talking about short season, those are the videos that are getting censored. But if you're attacking the videos that talk about the short season, that's fine, because you're part of helping the deception along, that thinking that Jesus' second coming that has already happened hasn't happened yet. So they're setting up a fake version of this, and it's going to be a big letdown for people, and they want us to worship demons. Okay? So that's where we're at. I've been talking about this for years, but this is like the best video I've done on it so far. And so, they want to serve us up, they want to sacrifice us up. The people the wealthy elite whose fortunes shape the fates of nations don't have good intentions for us. They want to sacrifice us up. The demons, the devils, Satan, or Satan's a title really. So, that fallen angel, Lucifer, whoever it is you want to believe, the demons want blood. All right, they get something off of this. That's why in the Bible it says, you shall not consume the lifeblood of any, you shall not consume the blood of any living thing while its lifeblood runs through it. So spilling the blood of the living, like look at all the ritual sacrifice to demons throughout the centuries, no matter where in the world it is. The demons want blood. And what's the premium? The things that are most abominable to God: the blood of children, the blood of the corpses and blood of the unborn. Hey, what would really piss God off? Kill them before they even get a chance to get born, and have Planned Parenthood pay money for selling the parts. So that's where we live. Do not fear. Do not become dispirited. And hang in there, because eternity is so much longer than the short time that we're here. And hey, I'm no different than anybody else. I just want to live a nice, quiet life in peace and dignity. And if I want to get indignity, want to have indignities or whatever, I want those to be with my goodly wife, and which isn't a sin if you're married and it's sanctified. So everybody wants somebody to be with and to pair up. So look at how hard they made it to make it work. People talk about how hard it is just to take care of themselves, and yet two people together would be easier. There'd be some comfort in that. You go to God first for your comfort, but two people together praying for comfort from God and for help, well, prayers matter and prayers work. Keep praying that their plans fail. We have access to the most advanced technology available that we're ever going to have available. It's a direct line to the creator and maker of all things. So pray to God. Pray to God for help and get creative in your prayers. You're limited only by your own creativity and by those things which God does not want for us to do in prayer, which you can find out by reading the Bible and watching people's videos on stuff that God doesn't want in prayers. Pray for their plans to fail. Pray for the evildoers to be exposed and shamed. And pray for their retaliation for the failure of their plans to be thwarted, so that whatever, they want to get their way. They plan this stuff for over 100 years. They've been planning all this stuff for a long time. Let it be exposed. Let people come around to God and make their plans fail, Lord. And incapacitate them so that their ability to retaliate is completely, utterly destroyed and broken, so that they can't just wreck everything and do Samson option if they don't get their way. You can pray for this. In fact, I do believe we are supposed to pray for these very things that I just told you. We're supposed to pray for, they can't have their way, so they're just going to Samson option everything. Pray against it. Pray that they can't have their way. They have guillotines set up for us. Pray that they never get to use them. Pray that, pray that their plans be destroyed. We're supposed to. By the authority of Jesus' name, we can pray these things, and we pray it to God. Look at the 5 things that helps us. It's always Jesus' name. Alien abductions, near-death experiences, falling down into hell, bad drug trips, sleep paralysis, calling out Jesus' name makes these things go away. And you can say Jesus. You don't have to get, should I say Messiah? Should I say Yeshua? Should I say Yahweh? Just say Jesus. He knows that it's him. He knows that you're calling out on him. And at exorcisms, we use Jesus' name to cast the demons out. And, pray without ceasing. That's always thinking about God and saying to yourself within his holy temple that you are, calling on Jesus all day long. Here comes so-and-so, Lord. What do I do with him? And hope that he will speak through you. And remember how it says, don't worry what you'll say in the Bible. Jesus says, don't worry what you'll say. The Lord will speak through you. The Holy Spirit will speak through you. And the apostles did this. They even spoke in tongues that weren't their own, that they didn't know what they were saying. They were speaking to groups of people that all spoke different languages, and yet everyone understood what was being told. And what were those apostles telling them? God's coming back soon to establish his millennial reign. Know that Jesus is God. And the people witnessed and were participants of a miracle and a wonder where they all spoke different languages, yet everyone understood what the apostles were telling the people that were there listening. So don't be scared about the remnant of 144,000. Those people were already taken care of the first time Jesus was here to settle the earth, before he set up his millennial reign. And now we're getting ready for the battle of Gog Magog. Whether it happens in your or my lifetime, we ever see it or not, that's what's next. So we have access to the most advanced technology that mankind will ever have access to. And it's that we can make a direct call to the creator and maker of all things and ask him for help and pray for help, not just for ourselves, but for everyone, so that people who are evil will have their souls saved. So people who are preyed upon by evil will have their lives and their souls saved, so that many more saints will be made. We have access to the most advanced technology that there ever is going to be. And that technology is prayer to God. And before we didn't know his name, now we know it. Use it. His name is Jesus, and Jesus is God. Don't become one of those grains in the sands of the sea that battle against the camp of the saints, all right? Stay the course and know that Jesus is God, and pray. They're never going to have a technology more advanced than a direct line to God. Don't let them take it away from you. Those are the plans for globalization. We got to get people away from God. Anything but really talking to God and asking for help, because a lot of people praying for the same things gets his attention. So don't stop praying no matter what. And know that that is the most advanced technology. I can't emphasize it enough. I hope this is enough. Pray. Pray to God. Say his name. Jesus is his name. It's the name that saves. Amen to that.